Women Taking the Lead, episode 207.
Be yourself to the fullest and say what you're thinking, even if it's the unpopular viewpoint, because I was definitely on the quiet side back then. And now I am definitely not.
Hello, my name is Jody Flynn and welcome to Women Taking the Lead, where we are all about creating blasts of inspiration to help you overcome self-doubt so you can lead with confidence, integrity, and a sense of humor. Have you grabbed your copy of my best-selling book, Accomplished: How to Go from Dreaming to Doing? Head over to womentakingthelead.com/accomplished to access the secrets to achievement and success. Now, your future awaits, so let's get started. Your website tells a story about your business. At Zebra Love Web Solutions, Millie and her team are going to make sure your website tells the story you want your customers to hear. Connect with Millie at zebralovewebsolutions.com to create the impression you want to make. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here with Ariana Sylvester, who is not your typical entrepreneur. She's the reality checker and partner for her crazy husband and ideal man, Tom. Lover of iced chai lattes, DIY crafting, bursting out in song, and the Big Bang Theory series, Ariana managed all three of their businesses from home, along with their two young children. Together, they own a rental property business with 18 units, a wine and liquor store, and an online coaching and training membership site for entrepreneurs. Ariana, that is very varied. And it's a 10,000-foot view of who you are. So if you could, tell us a little bit more about who you are and your own humble beginnings.
Sure. I was a bit of a, what do you call it? I guess overachiever back in high school. I was a straight A student. I was a 3-sport athlete. I was in the choir. I was in musicals, and I absolutely was obsessed with animals, which then actually makes sense for what I went to college for. I graduated with a zoology degree, and I played soccer for 4 years in college as well. And that is kind of where this whole business background started, because that's where I met Tom, who you mentioned is the idea man. We met freshman year, our first week of college. And very shortly after that, people called us the married couple and thought it was really funny that we had like this whole 5-year plan. But then it actually happened. So a little bit more background on me. I am the daughter of 2 moms, and I have a lot of strong women in my family. So I was very conscious growing up of ever being treated differently, whether it was for being a woman or for being a minority. You know, they were always very supportive and wanted us to stand up for ourselves, myself and my cousins who had similar backgrounds. And we were in a small town. When I was young, we moved from a city to a small town. So I did notice that growing up, that it was very prominent in the athletics portion of my life. And also with taking like the AP science courses and stuff, that you do start to notice those little nuances and just being treated, just slightly different from all the guys in the class.
Mm-hmm. It's harder to blend in a small town.
It's very, very hard, very much harder, especially when you have such a crazy background, with the 2 moms and then being a biracial child. And then I was kind of an oddball with my reading habits and being involved in everything. You meet people, you meet more people. So you're exposed to more people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, you definitely sound like someone who, is secure in who you are. And I don't even know if the secure is the right word. What was coming to mind was self-assured, confident, comfortable with who you are in the world and what you bring to the table. But I'm going to have you bring us to a time, right? It's coming.
Yes.
It's that I like to start us off with that story that just kind of sets the tone for the success that you've then achieved. But if you could, take us back to a time in your life when you were playing small, right? You didn't know how capable you were, not like you do today, where okay, whatever comes at me, I will overcome it. There's those times in our life when we don't see ourselves for who we really are. And so we hold ourselves back and we play small. So Ariana, if you could, share with us the story of your playing small moment and the lessons you've learned from it.
Yes, actually, it was not that long ago that I had probably one of my biggest playing small moments. As we talked about, I was I was very overachieving as a younger high school student and through college. And then, we started those first of the two businesses, the real estate, and then afterwards we started the small wine and liquor store. And none of that seemed to faze me. I kind of picked everything up as it came along and just took it in stride. And it all kind of changed for me when we started this latest business with the transferring of our coaching business with actual, in person to the whole online world. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was my mentality at the time. But for me, it was a really tough transition to make from those businesses that I was already running to being a part of the online business. And I guess I kind of didn't know my role, and Tom wanted me to contribute more, and I didn't really see how I could. I was like, well, what do you want me to contribute? I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I could say that would help people or what, what value I could give. I don't know why clients would want to work with me because Tom was he's the project management, that's his experience. That's what he does for a living. He's the entrepreneur at heart. He's the idea guy. And he's very technical and business strategist. So I was like, well, why would they want to talk to me? I don't have anything that they need. You're the one that, they need help from. And I, for some reason in my head, I completely disregarded the fact that I was running our two brick and mortar businesses on my own on a day-to-day basis. So it was just something about this online space and teaching other people that made me balk from it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I came away from after Tom continually having to tell me over and over again, what are you talking about? You give great value, you know so much. And we had to kind of sit down and really, I had to lay everything out on the table and tell him exactly what I was feeling. And he, in turn, was like, I don't know where this is coming from. You're smart. You know what you're talking about. You're helping people just by giving them advice, and you know how to run the two businesses that we have. You did it by yourself, for 2 years while I was traveling for work. So it was he had to shake it into me
Mm-hmm.
that I did know things. I knew enough to be helping people and to be his partner in this business. And it doesn't come as too much of a surprise to me because I do have a bad habit of undervaluing myself or my contributions to things or, brushing them aside as, oh, it was no big deal. And he's always called me out on it before. So when he called me out on it this time, it made me look back at, oh my gosh, I do that. And I have been doing that. And I guess it never really affected me as much before. But this having to train other people and, be giving value to other people, it just made, in my head, it made it seem so much bigger. And so lately I've been trying to be a lot more conscious of it and, get better at taking those compliments when people give them or get better at admitting yay, I do know that. I can speak on that because I've done it and it's been successful for us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm over here shaking my head, nodding, and you probably heard me be like, because I totally get that. And I can totally relate to it. And I know the women who are listening can relate to it too, where you have your area of expertise. And as long as you can do it the way you're doing it, you're perfectly comfortable. But when you have to bring it to a new platform, or if it looks a little bit different, all of a sudden we say to ourselves, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not my area of expertise. And I remember what your story brought me back to was when I started coaching. When I started as a coach, it's laughable now, but I started as a life coach and I was going to coach moms on, how to, focus on themselves and, self-care and life purpose and balance and all that stuff, which is I'm all for those things, but that's not, my zone of genius. And the first time somebody approached me and was like, well, I'm not a mom, but could you coach me on my business? I was like, well, I don't know how to, and what I said to them was sure, but on the inside, in my head, I was just like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I get myself into? And I started freaking out. I'm like, I've never done a business plan, business model, P&Ls and all of that. And what I realized was, most of the business owners who need business coaching, they don't need a business plan. or the business model. Like
Mm-hmm.
what they needed was what I was already providing, which was helping them to deal with stress, so they weren't getting so stressed and so overwhelmed, and they weren't so overworked. Like my zone of genius, I could bring into the business world to help these business owners be more successful while they're being relaxed. But I'll tell you, Ariana, it was just like your first perception of being in the online world was like, well, what am I going to do here? This isn't what they're looking for. But we have to realize that we have these paradigms that aren't always true.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to recognize them. So what have you learned from this? Has this affected any other area of your life?
It obviously, yeah, during this time, it was very difficult for me mentally because it started to affect, our personal lives. And I was not myself mentally. I was very, I felt unproductive because I didn't feel like I was contributing enough. And I felt like Tom was more stressed out because he had to do more of the work because I didn't know what I was doing, or I claimed that I didn't know what I was doing. And it really forced us to do a better job of assigning roles in that business. Because for the first two, the brick and mortar businesses, we already knew our roles. I was the day-to-day details. I run, the businesses, and Tom is more of the big picture. Let's talk about working on the businesses and how we can grow and our strategies and whatnot. And for this one, we had never really done that. So I think that was part of it. And after we had the talk and we're like, okay, well, where can I contribute? What parts do you need my help on? And what parts do I not feel comfortable with? So those should be your sections. Once we had that talk about what my role was and what his role was, we got a lot more comfortable and we started to work together better on the business.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense, especially considering the conversation you and I had before we hit record about how we're both planners and we like our schedules. Like we like to know what our role is.
Yeah, I needed to know. What am I supposed to be doing?
Yes. And as soon as we know that, we actually can not only own it, but recreate it from there. But there's got to be a starting point of like, okay, exactly. What am I responsible for?
Yeah, and once I knew, I could just take it and run with it, do it my own way. But I needed to know what parts he wanted me to do that with.
Yes, and now he knows that too, which is great.
Exactly. No, that's your job. You do that one.
I love it. And now, Ariana, I want you to share another story with us. This one is about an aha moment or a wake-up call. It's that time in your life when suddenly everything clicks and comes together. And this can happen, rapidly in the moment, or it can be something that has built over time where suddenly you start putting all the pieces together. So if you could, again, share with us what led up to that moment when it all clicked and you were ready to action, and then the steps you took that led to your success.
Yeah, so this is a big one. I actually had a huge wake-up call last year. So this goes back to before it was kind of, I don't know, I guess it was kind of along the way. But so we started the online business and we were kind of vamping it a little bit and had started changing our messaging and doing some different things. And that is also coincidentally the time that we had our second child. So I was, very emotional and mentally exhausted. Our son was probably between, 6 and 8 months old at this time, not sleeping. He would cry and yell all the time. He had multiple ear infections. So it was just I felt like a zombie, like walking around in a haze. There's a chance that I may have had some postpartum depression and I just didn't realize it at the time. And I just wasn't myself. I was unhappy. I was miserable all the time. And it was starting to get to the point where like my daughter would notice. And it was not a good time. I was always angry or sad. But for some reason, I never said anything. It took me months to actually say anything about it. I guess I was trying to be super mom. Everyone, that's kind of this whole thing that we have hanging over moms these days, that you have to do everything and be good at everything. And so I was trying to be super mom. I was trying to be a mom that was home with a young child and taking the other child to daycare 3 days a week. And I was trying to do the jobs I was supposed to do for the businesses. I was trying to be a wife while my husband was traveling 4 days out of the week. And so he wasn't home. So I was home alone with those two kids for, each week for a large majority of the week. And in trying to be super mom, I could barely manage to just be a mom. So, getting even work done was an afterthought at that point. So I was only doing the bare minimum to keep those two brick and mortars running and could barely contribute anything. Like we were still in that time doing our podcast and trying to write blog posts, and we had started our Facebook group, and I was barely managing. And that wake up call happened when all of a sudden I looked at my life and realized I am not happy. This is not, I don't even recognize myself. Like, where did this come from? And then after I finally realized it, it took me, maybe another week or two to get those thoughts out of my head and share them with Tom. And it was very difficult for me to do that because his consulting job was very stressful and he was traveling. So I felt like I didn't want to burden him with anything else. But that's actually not very helpful because then he's completely in the dark and he's supposed to be my partner on this. So I did eventually get around to, I actually wrote them out first because I find that sometimes when I'm having intense emotions about something, I want to make sure that I'm not being overly one-sided or over dramatic about things. So I'll type everything out that exactly as it is in my head, and then I'll reread it and kind of see, where are the areas that I still feel that way and where are the areas that I'm maybe being it's a little too much and it's not quite how I feel. So I wrote it out and then I sat down with him and I kind of read it out loud to him as opposed to talking it out, and just kind of sat back and said, what are your thoughts on this? So it's obviously struck up a lot of talk between us, and, he wasn't happy because learning that I wasn't happy was like the last thing he wanted. And with the traveling, it was very difficult for us to kind of figure out well, how do we fix this? So we ended up, after all those talks, kind of revisiting some of the goals that we had for ourselves and some of the goals that we had for our life, and talking about, what things could we improve out of this situation and how could we do that? So it ended up that it was really stressing me out to have the baby at home. He was extremely unhappy all the time. It was having a lot of effect on me mentally and physically with no sleep and no time to myself, really. So we ended up putting him in daycare with his sister those 3 days a week. And that was a huge, huge help to me. I could come home and take a nap if that's what I needed. And then I could get some work done. I could take some time to myself. And it really helped me come back to myself a little bit. I guess I was never meant to be a stay-at-home mom. And I just was doing that because I thought that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And that's, everyone's like, oh, I wish I could be a stay-at-home parent. And I never really looked at it before and thought, am I meant to be a stay-at-home parent? And with all the stuff we were trying to do, it wasn't meant to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think you have to give yourself a little bit of credit too. And any of the moms listening to this are going to give us a hell yeah on this one, because this has been a topic that has been coming up with my clients who are moms. Is there's so much pressure on women right now. And exactly what you said about who they're supposed to be as moms, that it's not realistic. You can't live up to it, but nobody tells you,
no.
Hey, don't even try to live up to this because it's impossible. It's just, but there's this thing, and we have this thing about men that men don't speak up and share their feelings. Women are just as guilty about that.
We are just as guilty. It just depends on what subject you're talking about.
Exactly. If it's something where I will be a burden to somebody else, or be taking my load and putting on somebody else, we will shut our mouths. We will not speak up. We will keep it to ourselves and hold it to our hearts. And it, like you said, and it only hurts the relationships and the partnerships you have in your life because they don't work if the other person doesn't know what's going on with you and can't figure it out and doesn't know why you're different.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
all of
I
a
mean,
sudden.
he would ask me, well, what's the matter? And my response every time, I'm tired. I'm just tired. And I was tired, but I wasn't telling him the other parts of that,
It was true, but it
So
wasn't the
he didn't
whole
really
truth.
know.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, she's tired. Like she must be really tired, but she's just tired." I mean, he didn't see underneath. I was good at hiding it. I was being a very good actress, and he, some days he would know that there was something else wrong, but I would always just blame being tired or Ty, my son, he's being extra cranky today, or he was super loud, or I couldn't get him to take a nap. There was always an excuse for why I was feeling that way, and I don't know why. It was like I couldn't tell him the real reasons because I knew that I would have a complete and total breakdown at that moment. So I just kept holding it in, and finally it was like, okay, well, this I can't hold it in anymore, and I actually let myself have the complete and total breakdown. I mean, there was probably a good week during that part of time where I was crying every day, and as I was writing what was in my head, I was crying and sobbing, and I'm like, oh my God, I just don't know what to do anymore. And, there was no one I could talk to really because I didn't know who else was going through this. And I couldn't talk to my friends who didn't have kids because they wouldn't understand. And I didn't feel like I could talk to my mother because she's not an entrepreneur. So she wouldn't really understand. She would just be like, oh, go take a day off. And, it's not the same. Sure, I can take a day off, but that doesn't help the fact that then I give myself 20 more things to do on my to-do list when I go back to work.
Right.
And so it was very difficult for me because I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to, even though I'm part of many entrepreneur communities, but that's like it's a very internal part of yourself to just open up to somebody you don't know. And I wasn't close with a lot of entrepreneur friends that I felt comfortable sharing all of that. Like, hey, want to do a coffee date? And then bam, here's all my stuff.
Yes. I totally get that. It's being torn between being Wonder Woman, right? Having it all together, not really knowing who you can talk to, or, finally just speaking up and being happy and living the life you want, and it's all conceptual. It's easy for us to say like, hey, if the choice is between being Wonder Woman and being happy, be happy, reach out for help. So easy to say. It's hard for us to do. When we crack the code on that one, Ariana, we're going to sell that in a bottle.
Seriously. Oh my goodness.
So funny. And the next thing I'm curious about, Ariana, because we've chatted a little bit about your style, and especially being, a brick and mortar business owner, and you've got some property, and now you've got this online course, that all different things that call on you to be a different type of leader in different situations. So what I'm very curious about is, how would you describe your leadership style? Because there is no one way to lead, and our personalities and our experience and actually what we're diving into determines the style we use. So what style is working for you?
I tend to be, I guess, a bit of a diplomatic leader. I like to feel connected to people and give them like a very relaxed and cool environment to be a part of. I don't like the whole micromanaging thing. And Tom and I are very different personalities. So, it's very apparent to people when they talk to us. He's definitely more of a project management person. He'll always ask the hard questions and make people think. And I like things to be light, and I like to be supportive. And I'm not going to not tell you the truth if you ask me a question, but I definitely word it a lot differently than Tom would. As far as our businesses, as an employer, I tend to be on the more laid back side. We try to do everything up front. As soon as we hire people, we have processes set out. We have a binder, with everything that needs to be done in the store, and we have them read through. So they kind of know what's expected of them right up front. So they're kind of they're given a lot of leeway to do their own thing and be their own person at the store. And then if something comes up, then they know to call me. And we have 2 employees that are more managers. So usually it goes through, if they have an issue that's directly related, they'll talk to one of the managers about it. And then if it's something that they know is extremely important or urgent, then they'll come directly to me.
Nice. So it sounds like not only your leadership style influences how you lead, but you have structures and systems and processes set up to allow you to maintain that diplomatic style.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. And Ariana, what is one thing you're working on right now that you're really excited about and you want to share with us?
I am actually super excited about this. It's been a long time coming, but so Tom and I have Startup Academy, which is our online membership. And inside of there, we have the Startup Roadmap, which is our 5 phases that take people through the very beginning of starting a business and all the way on up through operating it and then growing it to, scale. And we finally took out, a little teaser from that and created the Startup Roadmap checklist. So now we can kind of give people the same information, even though they're not in our academy. And we've created this simple checklist that takes you through each of the phases and then each step in the phase. So you could print this out and literally kind of walk through if you're just starting a business. These are all the tasks that we suggest doing before you even, start your business, doing your personal time audit, money audit, doing a personality assessment, that sort of thing. And then when you actually start your business, taking you through, getting an entity set up and picking a business model, validating your idea, all that sort of stuff. And then into the operations portion, doing strategy, tactical meetings, and how often to do those and how to run certain areas of your business. So we're really excited. And that'll be coming out by the time this podcast comes out. It will be live. And then we actually are rolling out something new with the Academy as well. We're going to be doing a free trial for people to sign up, for the Academy. Because we want to help as many entrepreneurs as we can. That's one of our biggest goals for this year. So we decided that the free trial was the quickest and easiest way for everyone to kind of get in and see if that's a good fit for them. And then become members.
Awesome. And we'll have the links in your show notes ready to go for when your episode goes live. So if you are listening right now, this is a done deal. You can go to the show notes page and grab them, and I'll have you give those links before we say goodbye. But next, what I'd like you to share with us is the biggest leadership or business challenge that you're faced with right now.
Right now, one of the biggest challenges that we have is Tom and I find that we're very good at connecting with people in person. But when you're in the online world, obviously, you don't get to do that all the time. So our biggest challenge is getting our message out to those who could use our help.
And how are you working on that? What are some of the things that you're kind of thinking about or grappling with there?
So we're working on, obviously, one of the biggest things with the online world is getting visible. So we're working on, writing some really awesome blog posts. We're working on, getting our message out through podcasts and people, that are aligning with our message. We're working on getting in front of people in Facebook groups that have similar audiences with entrepreneurs that are looking for guidance, and, just getting clearer with how we're speaking to people so that they can get the, our elevator pitch right away. Like, this is what we do and this is how we do it. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's really funny. We were talking earlier about how I was saying how I was so intimidated coming into the business world, because I was like, oh, I don't know how to do plans and models and make all those decisions and stuff. But what I realized from my clients is they had already been established. However, there is a segment of the population that I'm not a good fit for because they're in the startup phase and they do need all of that information that is not my area of expertise. So for those of you who are listening, if you're in that phase and you've been kind of checking out my coaching and realizing, hey, I'm not talking about how to get your business, started and off the ground and what foundational things do you need in place and what structure do you need to have, Ariana is the person you want to go to for that. If later on down the road you find yourself plateauing or getting stuck and you realize something else is going on, come back. Come back to me.
Yes.
It's awesome. And Ariana, now I'm going to do a quick leadership roundup. So tell us, what is one practice you have that helps to make you a better leader?
I like to listen, listening to what people are saying and asking myself what I can do to improve their struggle or their issues that they're having in their business.
A quick follow-up question to that, because listening is so broad. How do you make sure that you are listening? Do you have any practices or like something you say to yourself to get yourself in that place to focus and listen? Because it's so easy to get distracted, even when people are talking to us. A lot of times, I see it all the time, people lose their attention. Or they lose their focus and then they're not listening anymore. How do you do it so you're doing it well?
I guess I'd like to put myself in people's shoes. Going back to when we were in a similar situation and how we were feeling, or if we weren't in a similar situation, just putting ourselves there and thinking like, oh, if this had happened to me, or if I was struggling with this, how would I want someone to help me get through it? And that way I'm not, I don't ever want to like push my views or my guidance on people, because there's so many people that are willing to do that in the online world, but more give advice that, may be helpful because I'm not being forceful about it,
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And what advice would you give your younger self?
As we talked about earlier, I was pretty confident in most areas of my life, but there were some things that I wasn't. And I would tell myself to be yourself to the fullest and say what you're thinking, even if it's the unpopular viewpoint, because I was definitely on the quiet side back then. And now I am definitely not.
Now share with us a success quote or a mantra and why it has meaning for you.
So I like the quote, be the kind of leader that you would follow. Because what I've seen in the online world is that there's so much noise and there's just so many experts and gurus and, everyone out there that's trying to get everyone to follow them. And a lot of times people take roads that I wouldn't necessarily take to get there. So as we take our journey into this community, I want to remember that. I want to promise that we will always stay true to our values and keep our end goal in sight. It's not the money. It's not about the money for us. I don't really care to be a millionaire. I would just like to live comfortably. And then I would like to do that, helping as many other people improve their life and their businesses in the process.
Well said. Lastly, Ariana, what is the best way for this community to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is in our Facebook community for entrepreneurs, which you can find at serialstartups.co/FB community. And if there's anyone that's interested in the academy itself, you can find that at serialstartups.co/join. And then I also included my email if anyone wants to get in touch with me directly, which is ariana@serialstartups.co.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you listening, you can find all the links and resources that Ariana shared in this episode at womentakingthelead.com, because I know oftentimes you guys are on the go and jotting all that down is too much in the moment.
Please don't write and drive or if you're listening in your car.
So true. And Ariana, thank you so much for taking the time to inspire and enlighten us. We are all better for having met you.
Thanks, Jody. It was so great to talk to you again.
All right, ladies, I'm going to talk straight because I know you ambitious, high-achieving entrepreneurial women appreciate that. I know some of you are struggling and you find yourself saying, I know what to do to achieve my goal, I'm just not doing it. And you're struggling with having the time, energy, or willpower to move forward in your business or career. You may even be thinking you've developed adult ADD. I can help you with that, and you'll soon be surprised by how much you are able to get accomplished. No more going it alone, suffering silently while another year goes by. Send me an email at Jody, Jodi, at womentakingthelead.com, and let's get the conversation started. Thank you all for joining me on Women Taking the Lead. And to strengthen you on your own leadership journey, I'd like to send you off with a quote from Marianne Williamson, so here goes. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Again, thank you for joining me, and here's to your success.